So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our viewers around the globe, and welcome again to another intimate conversation. We love having you with us, and we would love any feedback that you have around conversations, and also don't forget to, if you feel drawn to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. So today's guest on Intimate Conversation is a beautiful lady that I've known all my life, is Jan Rosa. And Jan is actually a relative of mine, so that's how I've known her all my life. And it's such a wonderful opportunity, Jan, to have you here in Intimate Conversations. So thank you for saying yes and welcome.
Thank you. And yes, I love your energy so much, and the timing was absolutely perfect about me stepping into what I've been called to do next. And of course, I've known you all my life too. So there's a real deep, intimate connection before the intimate conversation. So
absolutely,
the truth and honesty, we can do this. So thank you for having me, darling.
Gorgeous. No, welcome. All right, so I'll just read out your little bio here for those who don't know you and know what you actually are doing and what you're going to be sharing more of with us. So Jan is a multifaceted intuitive who has been aware of dragon, spirit, guardian, star being, and source energies and frequencies since a very young age. Working close with Dragon, Jan has been asked to facilitate the awakening, understanding, and acceptance by humanity of beyond our very existence. Connecting and creating the intimate bond that our prime dragon is calling us to is one of Jan's true callings and a deep source directive. Jan also connects to source to bring through unique codes that are individual, working with colour and light language to facilitate connection to one's soul purpose. Astral clearing, ley line healing, and creating are also a part of the human dragon collective energies and frequencies of our Mother Earth that Jan is passionate about. Yay!
Thank you.
So into this conversation. And as you know, I've been a dragon girl myself for a long time, and have had such wisdom come from them. They're amazing. And we are them, as it goes, aren't we? So tell us, Jan, tell us all about the dragons and what they've been gifting you. I know you get such in-depth and absolutely amazing information from them, and your I don't know how to put it, but your soul work is just so intensely deep. Like, it's not that you hit the surface, it's a very deep understanding of what you do and how you present it. It's just so beautiful. So yay, let's go.
So as I said, very much so, I was aware of dragon from a very, very young age. Growing up in an abusive childhood, I connected with them, one way not to be as human, and another way because I've always felt sometimes that I'm not quite human, and I know I am. I understand that now, but as a young child going through an abusive childhood and a very lonely childhood, they really truly were my family, as in, because the human part of me couldn't speak or change what was happening. So I first became aware of dragon because angels never did it for me. And I love angel and angelic frequencies are absolutely beautiful. But my soul called in dragon, my source, my soul. So for me, I've always been aware of dragon, and I've always had that little giggle to myself when you read about St. George and the dragon, and one man on one horse slaying a dragon. And I'm like, not ever, and that's not truly who they were. So for me, they have come in, and I see dragon as being so closely connected to source, all that is, and they're the great creators and uncreators. So for me, their fire is about clearing away. It's about taking away what no longer serves. so that we can create new, not recreate, because that's a human thing, is just to replace, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
So for me, yes, did I go through stages? I was like, right, I'm slightly insane. Probably was a little bit. But the dragon energy has always worked with me. And they hold such deep intuitive knowledge about all that is. So they didn't ever hoard gold. They're wisdom keepers. They're the guardians of the Akashic records, anything that holds any frequency or knowing or knowledge. They are the knowledge keepers. They're also guardians of portals, and they're also too, you know, they can step in and take care of messes that are created by humans or other worlds. But we have never been ready to see them in their true form. So they have shown themselves, and yes, they can be as big as a mountain. They can be as small as a cat or a bird as well, which is what people don't understand. They just see them as being the hobbit dragon, small,
Yeah.
you know, big, billowing fire. And that's okay, because that's a partial truth. It's a little bit about, that's what a human mind could comprehend. I don't. Dragons very much work on frequencies. They very much work on energy. So when they do healing, they're not dragon. They are just pure light energy frequency. Light language is a universal language, and it's a bit like the dragons hum it or sing it, and it's a real deep from deep within. So they hold their song and their fire the same. And I could be here for hours. So anyway, the whole time I've worked with dragon, and I was very aware of one, and she's always appeared to me, and I know that she works on a female frequency, but I became aware of others. And over the years, I've learned that we work with a council. So we actually have 6 dragons that we can work with. We have our prime, which is our, if you want to say guardian angel, it's our dragon. It's our, you know, like if you believe in a guardian angel that's with you from first breath to last breath, we have that with dragon. But what I got shown is that dragon chose us from our first incarnation, whether we have been human, Atlantean, Lemurian, Pleiadian, they're with us the whole way through, waiting for us to wake up. So I was already woken, and then I started sharing a little bit about people meeting their dragons, and they were like twiddling their thumbs and going, can you amp it up a little bit more? This is a bit pretend. And I was like, they're not ready. And I wasn't ready too. That is also the energy. So I played safe. I played with where you go for a little journey and you sit and you meet an egg and the egg hatches. We don't do that anymore. Okay, just saying.
Yep.
And as we start small, because that's all we can comprehend for others to comprehend as well. But the reality is now is that what I've been called to, I don't want to say bullied, but pushed, prodded, and claws coming out and poking me in the backside, is to bring this new frequency, this new dragon energy. They're really here to help us create the best possible human paradigm for here and now that we can, with the opportunity to grow it. So it's about meeting your prime and understanding why they're working with you, which are the 6 frequencies they work on, and which within those 6 frequencies they belong to. Do you want to hear more, or
Yeah, go.
So the 6 frequencies obviously are earth, air, fire, and water. That's a standard over most planets and worlds. There is some version of earth, fire, water, air. There has to, you know, like there is, not necessarily our human, but
yeah.
And then the spirit. Now that's sort of very source connected, very source directed. So my prime dragon is spirit. And then they kept showing me metal, and I was like, metal, you know, like, but the reason being metal is otherworldly. Now, metal dragons tend to be our key keepers. So they're the ones that can access us for astral travel, for traveling to other realms. They're a very different frequency, and most people, I've never met anybody that's had a metal dragon as their prime. Because I don't think we're quite, and human, we're not quite ready, but my spirit dragon. So we meet our prime dragon. And for me, you know, the energy behind a spirit dragon is very out there. Yours will probably be a spirit dragon as well. If you're truly dragon connected, if you're out there changing paradigms, trying to change mindsets, trying to change frequencies and energies, you're your prime dragon will possibly be spirit, not always.
Yeah.
Of course, we have fire. Now, just because we have a fire dragon, and they're all amazing. I love all of mine. I know all of mine. I have all their names. I know how I work with them. But your fire dragon isn't always a big flame, because some fire dragons carry what I call candle flame. So if you have a fire dragon, so that's big and immense and fire, but their energy is about a candle flame. It's about lighting the way. It's about safety. You know, we use a torch or a candle flame or to get somewhere from the dark to see the light ahead of us.
Yeah.
So quite often people that have a fire dragon as a prime with maybe a candle or a torch, they are the way showers. They work really, really amazingly one-to-one with people, because they hold a space that is safe within that smaller light. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's it. My water dragon is a glacier dragon. She's a feisty little thing. I do have a mix of males and females. She wraps herself around me like a cat, and she bites. And I mean, it feels like when ice cold, that sort of. So she holds the energies and frequencies of some of the species that have been to this world that weren't friendly. Okay, we'll just put the not friendly ones.
Yeah.
So they're kept in stasis or they're removed. So that is part of her purpose, was to actually be a protector of Earth in this. Now, she's not my prime. She's part of my council. So the ones that work as part of your council, they are learning your frequency and your prime's frequency to then go on and be primes themselves. So it's like, yeah, does that make sense? So when I leave this world, not anytime soon, but I'm ready, any day, but whenever it is, because times are relevant to dragons, is I know that I'm going to go work with dragon. Okay. Absolute. It's not even a question. I'm not coming back to do human. I'm actually going to go and work on the collective and actually bring humanity into the collective. That's been one of the directives I've been given lately. But like United Nations, all the species, everything, and it's like I got asked and said, would you consider, because they've been wanting to bring humans into the collective, but we haven't been ready.
Yeah.
They need enlightened people to become. So I will be one of the pioneers. It doesn't mean I will actually sit on the collective, but I'm going to be one of the pioneers. So looking forward to that. However, we're going to do human first. Shouldn't I? So I sat there and I went, so I need to change this. So they've asked me to write books. So I'm in the process of writing the books, and then I'm going to self-publish, calling that in, because I wanted to hold the autonomy of being able to do the workshops and not breaching copyright, which happens, as you know, if I want to be able to teach dragons. So the first one is about connection with your prime. The second workshop is about connection with your council. It's pretty awesome. The third one is actually about doing the deeper healing and the connection with collective and past lives. And the fourth one is actually going to be a teacher course, so that people can then go out and put their energy on the backbones that dragons have asked me to provide. I don't want people to go out and do mini-me's. Please don't, ever.
Yeah.
Like I'm the only one of my kind. They broke the mold, as it should be. I want people to embrace the dragon, find out what works for them, and then go and share it with others.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my passion, as you can tell. That's been my whole thing. So for me, it's really, really exciting, and it is deep. I'm nearly 60 years around the earth, and I've known about dragons since I was about 2. And this is not, like you said, not something I've entered into lightly. And even for me, it's not about having it perfect. It was about making sure I understood enough to be able to hold space for others to understand. I don't want people to, because it's not a light energy. It's not the latest flavor of the month. For me, this is, a bit like you with what you do, Mandy. It's that whole thing. This has been my life's work, my life's passion. So it's really, really exciting. Yeah. And they want to work on healing the ley lines and the ancestral and all the rest of it. as a collective energy. But for me, because I work with dragons primarily, I would work with dragon alongside of others, but some people might work with Atlantean or Pleiadian, and that's perfect too, because it takes a village to create.
It does.
So that has been my big thing, and then stepping into the energy of this is what I want to bring through. So I've been a grief singer for a little while, as you know, and I use it with my healing, not realizing that I was actually doing it in light language or dragon. Yeah, it was a big awakening, you know, like that deep wailing and connecting and intense vibration is actually in the hum that starts from down, you know, when I'm doing those deep collective healings. That's dragon. That's me being pure dragon, bringing it through, which was an awakening for me that I've only just recently had, because I've done this for a long time, and I'm still learning and growing. And the energy with it is that the potential we have to heal Mother Earth is beyond human comprehension. Like, it really is. Like, I'm not just talking about, you know, this is about creating the energies and the platforms for us to be able to do the other world travel too, not just astral traveling in our dreams, to actually be able to do it.
Yes.
This is about creating portals, and this is creating the ley lines and ley lines, and some of them on conjunctions have portals that have been closed to us because we weren't ready.
Yeah.
You know, Stonehenge, you know, and then, you know, and then so what's happened is we're now being called to create ley lines underneath, because some of the other ley lines have been damaged beyond repair by humanity and by misuse, and then ley lines above and interconnecting them all. I'm like to them, how many years do you want me to live? Like, really?
Yeah. Is
you
that,
have kids, okay?
sorry, is that you're meaning like the new Earth grid?
Yeah.
In the sense of the ley line, yeah, new Earth stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's a stabilizing, and the reason they've asked for it to go lower, the dragons have, is that's clearing out the ancestral. That's clearing out some of the ancestral misdeeds, misuses, clearing it up and stabilizing Mother Earth at her core, like surrounding her with the love and the support that she needs from the inside out.
Yes.
You know, we can't, it's like, if Mother Earth for me is a living organism. So, you know, I know we're calling in and we're repairing the ozone, and there's all this, you know, environmental and global warming. But not everything gets repaired on the outside. You actually need to go inside to find out what's underneath. You know,
Yeah.
it's like if somebody has eczema, what causes the eczema? It might show on the skin. But what's actually causing the eczema? What's going in the body that's actually fueling the eczema?
Yeah.
That's what I'm being called to do. So at the moment, a lot of my work is the grief singing or the ancestral, clearing out. So just for an instance, at one of my dragon workshops, we did a healing where we just all went, and I was called to do Taupo, which is in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And the dragons stepped up and they said, the ancestors are asking you to take their bones home. So what it was working where the colonization had removed ancestral burial grounds and moved them to create the perfect spot to build buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. And that happens worldwide, like coloured in anywhere you go.
Yeah.
This is particularly because my home is New Zealand, so my home is my heart. So I went, and my prime and my council, we moved these bones, but we buried them so deep, sorry, but, and all I got this beautiful, now the grief singing from the ancestors, but then the coming home, you know, and it was like this collective sigh and this great love. They're so deep, Mandy, nobody will ever be able to move them again, let alone find them.
Yeah.
So energetically or physically, however you want to see it, for me, it was a physical thing. I actually felt like I was carrying the bones, you know what I mean? Like with honor and respect, and the dragons were, is like, have gone home. And I'm like, And then that meant that those ley lines could be laid where, or the grids could be laid where they're meant to be laid, because
Yes.
some of the grids that are being laid are actually through ancestors. They have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was like, so for me, everything I do has dragon involved in it. Doesn't matter what I do, it has dragon. So for me, probably it's as natural as somebody putting on perfume. I'm
Yeah.
dragon. Like somebody said to me, how dragon are you? And I went, probably about 85% now, like energetically and frequency wise.
Yes.
And that's okay. So for me, that was one of the big awakenings, that this is what we're being called to collectively as humanity, alongside dragons, because dragons help create Earth. So if you think sometimes I think Source is a tantrum throwing child that throws things out in somebody's, but Source, dragons help create. They breathe, they create, they uncreate too. So, things that happen, so dragons have always been involved with Earth. They've been involved with lots of different planets and creations. And they love Earth because of the way that we are connected to our world. Or we were. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And now we're being called back to reconnect. Now, it doesn't mean, that we all have to go out and devolve. It means that we have to bring balance back.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been another part of it. And that's something I truly, truly want to be able to hold space with, is deep healing with the right called in people, whether it be online. They've shown me Culloden, they've shown me Mayan, they've shown me where the wars are now. They've shown me all these spots, and it's like, right, let's begin.
Yeah.
So we begin. But for me, it's surrendering to my dragon and their collective deepen knowing the mine as to what needs healing first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, and that's okay. And I get with them, with New Zealand, when I was teaching my workshop, was because that was easier for the workshop to do as new meeting their primes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But for those that are ready, it's a whole journey. So, and it involves. Now we get on to the next thing. Do we need a break? Do I need to? You tell me if I need to shut up, please.
No, you just keep doing. That's great. It's great. Yeah.
So while I was doing this and discovering that meets that meets that, and I'm like, gosh, you guys have got me busy. They went, so now we want you to give people a light code, and I'm like, really? However, it's a unique. If you want to call it, like, we have a human DNA that's absolutely unique, right? Nobody else has got your DNA.
Yeah.
So what they're gifting me to bring through for others is a unique code. It's a soul code or a source code. And I bring through energies and pictures. And it's just, sometimes I think, like, it's not doodling, it's me just connecting and them saying, well, you need to bring through this. And the whole way through, like, they're showing me what that person is needing. Now, as when I do readings or anything else, I don't remember what I've said when I'm finished. I say to people, please record, because I don't, we don't.
Yeah.
We go, So I bring through, and each one is so unique, and it has this frequency and this song. And it has such a deep connection to all that is. So if your source contract is ready, or soul contract is ready, it's going to spark activation in you. If it's about something that you're needing to do just in the human right now, it's going to gift you that what you need. And the thing is, it's so unique to you that only you understand what it is.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just a conduit. I have, like, I just bring it through and it's all yours. Like, I have no idea, and for me, that was a true, not only is it a gift from them, but it's also for me a true surrender, as in giving over for me to be the channel, not trying to control it. So I've been offering those at markets, but to me, that's a little bit like a taster. It's not deep enough. It's not, it's perfect, and it's helped the ones that have chosen it. Absolutely. For some of them it's a connection to dragon, for others it's about, maybe what, but it's something that I truly want to bring through on a deeper level, and that includes, so they've informed me actually singing what the light language is for you on a recording so that you have it.
Beautiful.
So the light language, and I'm like, because so many people are beautiful with light language, and they're like, no, because you're doing the dragon version of the light language. It's a bit like English and Kiwi English and Australian, all slightly different. So the other thing they've gifted me is now I can actually offer people, when I'm doing their workshops, is to actually name their prime in light language.
Right.
And write out what the meaning of it is. And in the second one, it's because the dragons don't want people to try and grab everything all at once. You need time. If you're meeting your prime and then your main one, as you know, your relationship with your main dragon, it is deeply intimate, and you can't just do it in 2 minutes and then go, right, bring on the next one. Do you know what I mean? It's not a smorgasbord all you can eat buffet.
Yeah.
Even for me, over nearly 60 years, I've only met I was aware of them, but only intimately know their names and more what they do individually rather than collectively in the last 4 to 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's because I had to do the mucky work of trying to figure out why I was hearing all these different voices and not being insane.
Yeah.
So for now, so when the second one comes, is dragons actually have a name for us. They have a name that they call us, and they have it in light language. And I've always been okay to write that down, as in, I hear it, but they've asked me to sing it. So those that come to a second or have really connected with their prime, I have the opportunity to surrender to actually call through their light language name that the dragons have named you.
Right.
Does that make sense? So it's a bit like your parents name you Mandy or Jan or whatever else. The dragons also name us.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it's like very intimate, very unique, very, I almost want to say a ceremonial thing. It's like you've got to have earned it. Does that make sense? Like it's not just, so I was like, okay, that's awesome. So there's all these light language things going on, or dragon language, because I just consider light language dragon language. Dragon speak is what I call it. So then they said to them, right, so now you need to work on heart contract. I went, well, what? Like, excuse me, what? I'm already working on a source contract and a soul contract, and now you're throwing heart contract in there. Excuse me, you guys, Soul contract for me, and this is what we come through in this birthing in this lifetime to do. So my soul has come through, okay, to do what I'm meant to do, and that's my soul contract. We talk about that all the time. Like we're here for a soul purpose or a soul contract, whatever, however you, And I used to very jokingly, sort of a little bit angrily, used to say that I must have sat at the back of the class and just signed it because I was too busy talking, or I didn't read the fine print to come through an experience. However, a few years ago, I realized that that was actually dishonoring my soul, and that my soul chose this. So me saying, oh my God, if I hadn't had a conscious thought about it, would I have chosen it? I don't know. If I could go back and change it, would I do it? Absolutely not, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't have experienced what I experienced.
Exactly. Yeah.
So our soul contract isn't always pleasant. It's not. I mean, for some people, so, and I was fine with that. And I realized that, how my soul and the human had done some things in past lives, human lives, had impacted on this soul contract. And I was fine with that. And they said, so what about your source contract? I went, what? Like I do the what thing a lot. I have arguments with them because they're like my family. So from the moment we are first a spark from source, through whatever lifetime we live,
Mm-hmm.
So when we first spark from source and the dragon connects with us or choose, and then we might go off into human, we might go off into Atlantean, Pleiadian, and also in the awareness that as far as source goes, it's not linear. That even though I'm aware I've been Pleiadian, I might actually be Pleiadian at the moment, but I'm from source, but my soul fragment is here.
Yeah.
So I see source as being a disco ball. My source purpose or my source spark is a disco ball. It's one, me as source, spark, but I can be living simultaneously in different energies and different frequencies at all times. Collectively, are we supposed to remember this? Probably not, but the more awakened we become, the more we are aware.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I'm very aware. I'm very aware and open to dragon, and I can walk in dragon world because they've gifted me that because, I can. Yeah. I understand far more about dragon probably than I do human, probably because dragon interests me. But in saying that, I shouldn't, but that's true. I'm more dragon than anything. So that's the source contract. It's like from the beginning of your first source, your first birthing, your first spark of life, is we live a collective multitude. But from that, we create soul contract, because soul is a human construct. So our soul contract is a human construct. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So soul contract, source contract, I got my head around that. And it still boggles me a little bit every now and again when I think about it. But I'm also human, so the pulling my hair out is quite normal. And then they're sitting there and they go, so what about heart contract? I went, huh? What? Huh? So anyway, so heart very much for human, it's our emotional. It's our, for me, when the healing happens, we have our soul or our sacred space, and then we have our heart, which is duality, life force, and emotional. And then our body, which houses all our emotions as well, because it likes carrying the excess baggage.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our mind and our brain is a supercomputer. So if we run a program, like just say for me, knowing and being very aware of it now, from my abusive childhood, my thing was not being seen.
Yeah.
If I wasn't seen, I couldn't be heard. Being quiet, shut up, from fear and lots of other reasons. It's also why it's taken me so long to step up. And even though I know you and love you, I still was like 5 minutes before the interview, because it's that fear of being seen, because my brain, that supercomputer, runs that program. Yeah. Now I'm busy reprogramming, but our factory reset goes back to what we know best. So for me, it's actually changing the program altogether. And that doesn't happen overnight. I've got to undo all these years.
Yeah.
So they were like, and then mind is everything that flows up, like from outside and from what we learn. So then they're like, so what about your heart contract? And I went, what do you mean? Emotional stuff. I'm trying to deal with that. I'm not carrying it. I'm releasing it. My body gets, I get up well, and I'm like, so heart contract is actually that coming home to self. Truly coming home to self. And it's like, oh. And for me, that was a really, really big awakening, because I'm a rescuer. I'm a mother and a martyr and a rescuer. I know. And, and saying no, but actually just being able to say, does that make my heart sing?
Yeah.
Does this make my heart sing? And heart too, for some people, can be that heart contract. If you have that greatest love of your life and it ends too soon, part of that heart contract might mean that you're going to recreate it, and your heart contract will carry you into another lifetime with that person again.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but for me, it was actually about learning to love me. So my heart contract, my biggest thing in my human, because soul is between and source is definitely out there, has been losing the fear of being seen and realizing that I have value and that I am here for a purpose, which I always knew, but my purpose needs to be heard by others. I just can't, because you know, I mean, sometimes I quite happily pull the covers over my head and hibernate till I die, and not, you know, not do any more spiritual work. Because being spiritual, and that's such a big misnomer, being multifaceted,
Yes.
is such a big thing. And we've got to let go of so much programming and people wanting to pull you down, and people wanting to but take what you've shared with them, and they do their own thing with it, and that's fine to a degree, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
You know, and so having to let all that go and going, you know what, if they do that with that, that's fine. You know, it's not my monkey, not my circus, not my monkeys, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's all part of my heart contract. And that for me, they've sort of thrown that at me lately. And I mean, like, so why? And they said, because this is the actual hardest one for me in my human lifetime.
Right.
Like, right. So you think I'm ready? Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but you know, I'm like, really, you guys, you think I'm ready? Haven't I done enough? Yeah. And so what it is the heart contract is actually the love letter we write to ourselves. You know, and that's the hardest one for most of us as humans to write.
Yeah, that's the one that's most critical right now, is to you know, because we're in the throe of coming into oneness. You know, we started from one was all and we were all one, to this mess we're in now, which isn't a mess. It's absolutely recognizing that we've been co-creating together, but we were doing it by default because we didn't actually know how we were doing that, and that we even were. So now we're realizing, hang on a minute, we've just created all this stuff, and that's actually not what I want anymore. So now we're moving the direct, you know, the trajectory and creating new into our world now. But the only way that we can really come back to one is by loving ourselves, by deeply loving ourselves and knowing ourselves.
And that's the hardest journey too. Like, I mean, dragon for me is easy. Well, no, I don't want to say easy, but this part here, this heart contract part, oh man, I'm like, really, you guys? But I also understand on a very deep level, Mandy, that's so friggin' necessary.
Yeah, totally.
You know, I could be out there and sharing the dragon, and it's perfectly fine for me to do so. I'm not going to hibernate, I'm not going to do it. But for me to truly live my heart contract and and tie the heart contract or the heart purpose into my soul purpose and my source purpose, oh, when that happens, and as that's beginning, it's opening up so much that it is scary. And I actually developed a heat cold, and I was like, so what's stuck up my nose? And it was the realization that this is the end game, not, you know, not for it, but for me, this is part of my end game. This is part of bringing it all together. And that's scary, but oh, it's also exciting, but it's also scary, but it's exciting. Every other day I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. However, understanding that we lead by example, and I can't ask other, like, that's why I didn't bring the dragon through until now, because I needed to lead by example. I needed to have lived it. Yeah, it's like when we sit through a traumatic or a childhood or any event that hasn't been, you know, that's outside of what we term normal and what is normal. Yeah. But it means that we sit in a bigger understanding, awareness, and empathy. It doesn't mean we've walked the same path, but we have that capacity and that absolute knowing of, I've got your back. Like, I may not have walked it with you. I'll walk beside you. I'm not going to carry you anymore, because that's the rescuing thing. But man, I you know, I know how that felt for me. Not how it feels for you, because you feel differently. And that was also part of the heart contract, was realizing for me that trying to rescue everybody was not actually honoring myself. It was actually putting myself last, like way down the list, behind the cat, the dog, and probably the wild mice running out on the field, you know. Yeah. because it was easier to hold space for others than what it was to hold space for myself.
Yeah.
So part of this energy, and that's part of what the dragons absolutely require us to do, is to come home to self first.
Yes.
You know,
Totally. Yeah.
how can we heal Mother Earth if we're not healing ourselves? Now, it doesn't mean we have to have it done,
Yeah.
because it's an ongoing thing. It means we have to be aware of it. So all this stuff for me has really amplified in the last 3 to 4 months, because I'm honoring my heart contract or my heart purpose. So everything else has been amplified outwards. I'm like, oh, so that's why I need to, how can I love Mother Earth and want to heal Mother Earth and, you know, do that if I'm not loving myself and healing myself?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, so yeah, it's been big awakenings, and it's all dragon. And so some days we love them, some days we tell them to back her off. No, not really, but you know what I mean.
You're allowed days like that though, Jen.
It's a little bit like too much right now. Give me a break, you know, because it's been overwhelming. But in saying that, it's also brought a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
So it means that I'm wanting to bring my workshops out of where I live, because, you know, that doesn't mean that I want to be able to travel. I want the books done. I want to be able to offer the courses online, because I live in New Zealand. So, you know,
Yeah.
I want to bring them around New Zealand, which I've already been discussing with you, and looking at Australia for next year. And I want to be able to offer them online. I want to be able to offer the, so when I did my own soul code painting, that was part of my awakening to heart contract, because that's what it really is. It's like, this is you at your truest, at your source spark. So when you see the beauty and the pure in you, how can you not love who you are now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I want to be able to offer that. And so for me, it's like, so now I have to be seen. So then my beautiful cousin says to me, why don't you come on for an interview? And I went, Mandy knows me really, really well. And normally Jan runs and hides, you know, and I actually said yes. So here I am.
You did.
So beginnings of is that I'm going to create a website with help, because I'm not techno and I own that. That's not part of who I am. I love myself enough to say, I'm not going to do it. That sounded really good, actually. That was quite empowering, actually saying, it's not my thing.
Yeah. We don't do everything.
No, but my thing is that I'm very aware that to bring it to the outside world is that that's part of me being visible.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so it's this big awakening that, you know, it's not about me doing this to be seen by everybody else. It's just to be being seen by those that are called to be seeing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because it's like, I don't want to go out and be the latest and the greatest and the biggest new thing out there. I want the genuine. I want the ones that are committed to connecting to their dragon and doing the work.
Yeah.
Because the dragons don't play small. So if you're going to connect with them and want to do the work, like, don't do it just because it's the newest, biggest fad.
No.
You know.
And I think I mean, it is not everybody's thing. It's not going to be. Nothing ever is.
I don't want it to be.
No, and nothing that I do is everybody's thing either.
You know, like, it's sacred. I don't want everybody to be out there. It's not like sunlight soap.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
So it will draw who it's supposed to draw. You know, that they'll be called to it. And I know, you know, I was called to dragon called me, and when I first met my prime, I suppose, and it was really funny. I have to share this with you, but what he showed me was he started referring to humans as mice. And I'm like, oh, I said, that's not very nice. He goes, so he's huge. And I was up in the sense of seeing from where he sees, so through his eyes. And he said, yes, they are. They're just like mice. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, look at them all, you know. and I'm seeing the coming out, seeing the picture of the city, you know, and everyone's running around, scurrying off to the grocery shop to get their stuff, bringing it back and hoarding it in the house, you know, and then it's like locking all the doors behind them, you know, so it's like going out and gathering all the things you need and coming back to your hidey hole and locking everything up, the fence, the gates, you know, the doors, your windows are all closed so that nobody else can get in. And yeah, and I thought, oh my goodness me, you know, and what I really saw was how we live in fear, so much fear. And yeah, it was just very interesting, but straight up the guts as such, you know,
They
like
are.
there's
They,
no
they don't
messing
have
around.
time. No,
Yeah.
they don't have time for wannabes, gonna be, you know, which is why I sometimes get a, you know, poke up the butt ski, because, you know, they're like, well, you need to be doing it now, you know,
Yeah.
like, and for me, it's not, it was always the fear of being seen. And I know I come back to that, but that was my biggest thing.
Yeah.
So part of that heart contract for me was actually people that want to see me will see me. The ones, and they won't see me, they'll see dragon, or they'll see my energy or my frequencies.
Yeah.
So I no longer need to be that young child that hides.
No.
Because I'm dragon, like really, you know. And yeah, and they don't have time. And I've said that to them too, you know, we just, you know, like I'm sure Source created us and we've been a science experiment. And the dragons have quite honestly said to me, they've had to fight to keep humans here.
Yeah.
They want us to advance. They want us, and Atlanteans, a lot of other species and star beings are working with dragon to bring us into the collective. And the collective is like the United Nations.
Yeah.
You know, and they fight to keep us here. But some days I think they wonder if we're worth it. Like, honestly, you know.
I do too.
Yeah, you know, and I'm like, and they said, well, it's time to wake up. And I said, well, and they said, but if you wake one person up, Jan, if you help hold space for one person who then wakes one other person up, who then, that's a ripple. And I went, so instead of thinking about me having to not convert, because I'm not a cult, you know, but, you know, like the people that have connected with their dragons and are aware of their dragons and like you working with their dragons, we've only got room to grow. Yeah. It's not static.
Yeah.
You know, it's not locked in. They chuck things at me every other day and I'm like, no, I'm not quite ready for that part yet. I've got notes everywhere, Mandy. I'm a writer. So they're all, and I'm like, yeah, book 8 now, you know, and it's not all dragon either. Some of it's about the 77 portals on Earth and the other 77 portals that are being created, 44 down below and 33 up top, grids.
Yeah.
Some of them are about the collective, you know, and I'm like, right, so I'm going to be writing for the next, I'm not going to live that long, but, you know, like, so somewhere along the line, I actually have to do, you know what I mean? Like I have to finish.
Yes.
You know? That's part of my awareness, and part of what I've been writing down is actually finding the right publishers and the right places and the right cost as well, you know, to be able to see it. And then I need to just surrender it. And those that are meant to read it will read it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's taking that whole step back about it being, you know, I don't want to be an international author. I mean, I won't mind some of you, but you know what I mean? I don't want it. I want the people that are meant to read it. The people that are meant to come to me for healing or for dragon energy to come to me for the thing. The same as the people that come to you. And I mean, I've been to some of your events and I absolutely benefit from them because I'm called to. Does that make sense? So like really stepping into the energy of that's part of self-love, is actually doing what lights you up or you're called to do. Yeah. And self-love is not always sunshine and roses. Some of it's quite nasty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. But it's definitely important for sure. And we've just let it slide because we just did. And now it's time to haul it all back and come back.
Which is why they've said, like they've actually distinctly said there is now what we call a heart contract out there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all done in our soul thing now because we were so busy doing all the other stuff, but like I'll get to that bit later. I'll do that bit
Yeah,
later,
yeah.
putting it at the bottom of the pile. That now actually the heart contract is, part of what we really truly are being called to be actively empowering and awakened to and creating for us
Yeah.
to be able to evolve and awaken to the next step. If I don't want to come back as human, that's sort of like they've added the addendum onto myself.
Yeah.
And they said, and I said, well, and they said no, because that's the one part that you aren't truly fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, that was a real, because I thought I'd done all this, not hard work, but it is hard work, like when you're doing, and it's like, yes, you have, like you've cleared out, but you forgot about you. I thought I was doing all this for me. No, you forgot about you, the heart you, the true you, the pure you, the one that everybody shuts away and goes, I'll get to you later. Oh, you're okay in the corner. I'm busy loving everybody else.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
can have what's leftovers. And nowadays with the economy, and if you think about economy being our spiritual economy, there's not a lot of leftovers.
No, there's not.
No. So,
Yeah.
So my heart contract is part of my energy of being seen, of loving myself enough to be able to offer what I've been gifted and not just gifted, but worked really, really hard at, because it's not a gift. People say, oh, you're gifted. And I go, yeah. So for the last 60 years, not being able to hold down a 9-to-5 job, because every time I got a 9-to-5 job, something would happen that would take me out of it, because this is what they wanted me to do. And I've got to say, in all honesty, living the awakening lifestyle, it doesn't make you rich and famous. Like, really, it's, because it is a true soul and source contract. So it's not about the finance. So I'm sort of like, when people say you're gifted, I go, but we all come in knowing all this.
Yeah.
Like, that's what people forget, is that as babies, as newborns, we're so connected. And then our brain and our mind and society and beliefs and cultures and everything else, life happens, and we forget.
We do. Very much so. Excuse me.
And it takes strength to honor that this is where we're called to. Like, I honor those that are authentic and real and raw in what they offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is a real authenticity in standing up and being seen, and so for me, it's like I'm coming home to me, and in coming home to me, it means that I can share more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally that. So Jan, just going back a little bit, when you were talking about the council, is that your own personal, say like my own personal council of what? So they're a part of the collective, but they're coming into a council group for you.
So it's almost like, so when they said to me, so they kept showing me 6, and I went, but we become the 7th. So we have 6 amazing dragons, one from each. And part of what I've come to aware is that, like, there's one lady that I work with that absolutely loves her prime, doesn't really want to know about the other 6. So they're sort of lined up behind her prime. Okay. But for me, my prime, Celine, sits on one side and Zin sits on the other. He's my fire dragon. He's obsidian. He's almost like, I don't want to say reckless and brash, but he's part of who's really stepped up to help push me forward to being seen, because he's a preener.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
get out.
get out there. And then the others will have, so for me, it's like we sit in a circle. So there's no leader, it's just like, so for me, with my council, it's like like when you're sitting with a group of friends around a lounge and laughing and joking and sorting out the world, and one will throw something in. God, you want to hear all the inputs on the book, though? That's a bit much, and then I've got other dragons that want to share information too. So it's like, and it's absolutely amazing, because it's actually I'm calling the first one is Conversation with Dragon, because it's like all these dragons have input, and I'm letting them have their say.
Yeah.
why shouldn't they? It's their book.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
just a conduit. So, but for some people, they might actually sit in the middle with spokes out to their 6. And that's about, so for me, because I've worked with mine for so long, it's like this really big group of friends and family. But for somebody else who's coming in, they just might want to work in a triangle with their prime and the next one that's coming in,
Right.
and the others might be on the outside. The
Yeah.
ultimate is to be able to work with all 6. So you work as a frequency of 7,
Right.
which means that there's no split vote. So when they told me about, and I was having arguments about my heart contract, it was like no split vote because I was outvoted. It was 6-1. So your council is created of dragons that have chosen to work with human or in this lifetime. So our council, this lifetime's council, Celine has been with me since first and will be with me till last. So she's my prime. The other 5 that have come in this time, Zin's been with me before, but I know that. But the other 4 have come in, and they've just come into this human lifetime with me. They're learning.
Right. Yeah.
They're not primes, they're just part of. So Celine is probably like your dragon, been around since the beginning. So Celine was what I call source sung-in. She wasn't birthed through parents, she was source sung-in. There's a difference there too, like source sung-in is different to being birthed. Does that make sense? A bit more complicated.
Yeah. Can you just explain that a little bit? I don't quite.
So as we all know, dragons are born from eggs, right? Most of them, are. So, and all dragons are sung. So at birthing, they're sung in, and at passing, they're sung out. It's dragon song. It's beautiful. It's correct. Yep. However, not all dragons are born of a dragon mother and father. Some are direct from source.
Right.
So they're the ones that come through because they've got the bigger job to do.
Right. Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So it's almost like the golden egg, the goose that laid, the golden.
Yeah.
So it's like there's less of them, but they come through. So for me, Celine had to come through. Celine came through, and for a little while I was like, couldn't understand what they meant by it. And it's like they are sung in collectively by dragons through source. They're not birthed through a female dragon.
Right.
And then they're placed with a family or whatever else, but they come through with more wisdom and more knowing because they come direct from source.
Yes. Yeah.
They're a collective, and it's a collective energy. Yeah. So when they're sung in by ancestors and everything else. So that sort of took a bit of getting used to because my brain was going, but now I understand it. It's a little bit like it's an enlightened. She's enlightened. She's so, and they are around, and some other species are enlightened as well. Don't get me wrong. It's not just dragons, but this is. So for her, she's chosen never to have a mate or a partner or birth or do anything else. And some sung-in do, but for her, it's just her and me. For me to go into working as a pioneer for the collective, as in the United Nations, when I pass from this world, Celine will join with me instead of me joining with her.
Right.
Because I'm going to keep my human side to work as a pioneer to bring us into the collective.
Right.
It sounds a bit, and I was like, I had to get my head around that too. Because if we are so dragon connected like me, 85% dragon, when we pass, it's like we can either go to dragon, as in be in their realm for a while, and then be sung out with them, like both. But for me and Celine, it's this thing that we will probably be just connected. It's really hard to, once you understand the frequency of your prime and what your next directive is for after this lifetime. So Zin has been with me before, and he's come through, and he's a little bit, I call him my backbone. He's the one that pokes me up the backside, and nudges me forward, shoving sometimes. And he really, really stepped up in the last 4 to 5 years. I've been aware of him for years. The others I've always been aware of, but then my glacial dragon came through because part of the ancestral and the ley lines is clearing out some of the ones that have been kept in stasis here that are not meant to be here, is actually working to remove them home.
Right. Yeah.
Or remove them and uncreate them.
Yeah.
A couple of species, just saying. You know, and that's okay because, you know, so so Zin will go on to be a prime straight away as soon as I pass.
Yeah.
Celine leaves with me. Her and I are connected, so she doesn't choose anybody else. Now, just say she was saying in, and I didn't step up this lifetime, and I was never going to come back, and I'd done whatever I'd done and was going back to source. Celine may then, it gets complicated, but the ones that are with you as your counsel are there to learn. So they're there to learn from your prime, who is normally an older one that's got more wisdom. They're there to help guide. They're there to understand humans.
Yeah.
Right. You know, because we're pretty complicated. We do emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't say dragons don't, but they're more realistic with their emotions. We can.
Yeah.
And so I already know that, you know, especially my glacier dragon, because I've been working with her a lot, Priya, that they get, I give them nicknames because to pronounce their whole name is forever.
I know. I can't even remember what mine told me it was.
Yeah, so I just asked.
It starts with, but I couldn't.
Yeah, so I just asked them for a nickname. So Celine, I called her Celine because she was white and opaque, and her name sort of has that, but she reminded me of selenite, you know, like that opaque.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Zin, yeah, and also too because he's obsidian, sort of coloured like that deep dark black. So Priya, she gave me my name, and she's pretty, but she's a dark, almost purple black. Like glaciers are not all white and blue, like the deep ones are that real purple black. So, and so the ones that, you know, so I know that Priya is really stepping up and like claiming in, and she's going to come back. So the other thing is that I do know that the wind, my air dragon, my wind dragon, is actually deciding that maybe doesn't want to play with humans as a prime and may go and choose Atlantean or Pleiadian, but it's almost like a training. They've got to learn before they choose.
Right.
Unless they're sung in, and they're sung in with a directive. And Celine's directive was to work with humankind.
Right. Yeah.
And then she chose me.
Yeah.
I said to her, really? Did you have to? No. No, but you know what I mean? It's a little bit like, I don't know, like she's so immense in the power and the wisdom she holds, but oh my God, such a deep love as well. And she's spirit, so she really understands, you know, so much. And there's layers and complexities and frequencies within her. And, you know, and I always say to people, you know, if you're coming to dragon, you're either dragon, you're a rider, or you're a traveler.
Yeah.
So dragon is obviously when you're with your dragon, you're either dragon, like I fly beside her, or I can fly on top of her and melt into her and see through her eyes. Yeah. Some people just ride on the back and they have a connection. And I sort of say, if anything Avatar taught us is that connection, that's sort of what we can have with dragon.
Yeah.
And then there are some people that are travelers, and I laugh about this because they're the ones that need the seatbelt and the harness and the you know, like it's almost like they hop on like, you know, a chartered, you know, or so, you know, they want to know, but they're, you know, like, so, and that's fine. They can start from that and graduate, but like actually meeting somebody who put their hand up straight away and says, no, I think I'll be a traveler. And I shouldn't laugh, but I did. Not laughing at them, but just that picture that the dragon was showing me of, you know, and they're putting on this harness and like a seat like on the top of an elephant, you know. Like,
yeah. That's my image.
So this dragon was busy showing me this, and I was trying, I'm not laughing at the person because I said to her, this is what your dragon's just showing me. And of course she laughed as well. But the reality is, for some people, like the dragon are like, well, I don't care. If you want to be a traveler, at least you're acknowledging me and being with me.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, that's still an awakening. Yeah. You know. So, but yeah, so if you want to be a traveler, that's fine. They don't mind putting the little thing on the back with the umbrella and the harness and, you know, and like.
Yeah. Funny.
You know, but however, that's, you know, and that's a reality, is not everybody that comes into anything is going to dive into it and do it to the depth of what I've done. I don't expect people to. It's a little
No.
bit, if we learn Reiki, some people do Reiki 1 and that's all they want to learn. Some people do 2 and 3 and then become a teacher.
Mm.
You know, that's fine too, because
Yeah.
each one of us only needs to resonate with what we're being called to. It's like reading some spiritual books, and I read them and put them down and then got told to pick them up again. I'm like, oh, read it. And finding something different in there. And I'm like, really? Was that in there last time? I wasn't ready to read it last time.
Yeah. That happens, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, you know, that's what dragon are about. They're like, they poke you, they prod you, they nudge you, they laugh at you, they laugh with you. They love unconditionally, and it's a love that's not a human love. It's very profound and deep, and it's like, but you've got to also want to step up to be part of the purpose,
Yeah.
because that's really important to them too, you know, is that we become, you know, they want to work with us, and it's so symbiotic that they don't, you know, they want us to be all in, like, don't dab your toes. Oh, I'm doing the freaky thing. I do the freaky thing sometimes.
Yeah, it'll come back, I'm sure.
If not, it could be the dragon energy just going.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too.
Yeah,
it's
so
lovely that it's emerald green anyway. That's the intimate.
Yeah, I know, and that's actually my that's my earth dragon. But anyway, that's fine. Maybe because I hadn't really mentioned him, so you know, maybe he was getting a little bit toey.
Might have been
because I mentioned sort of the wind one and then but anyway, yeah.
Yeah. And so you know, you are working on your books, yes, so they're not out yet and available, but you're also planning to, I know you're coming up to Whangarei, and
absolutely.
Yeah, we're just getting all that organised, so it's not ready to just be put out there just yet, but you are coming. And so you will start travelling around, just sort of like New Zealand, North Island or something, and running more of these?
Yeah.
Do you do them online? Like, is it?
Well, that's what I'm hoping
to be in person.
Look, as we know, you know, like, I mean, I've been, you know, we all started face to face. There was no other way to do it, or on the phone, you know, and that is the wonders of technology. And so I am thinking of offering the Dragon Connection workshop as an online, and it would be, you know, maybe 4 hours with a break, you know, like needing breaks and things like that. So, you know, I don't want to split it, because I think then you would lose the frequency. The council one might be different, because there's, you know, you're bringing in the other 5, so you could do it over 5 sessions. But yeah, absolutely. My thing is, I would prefer to hold space for people to meet their own prime, rather than for them to have a session with me, for me to tell them their prime, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? It's a little bit like,
totally,
that, you know, it's like, I'm not a marriage broker, sorry, they're just laughing and joke, you know, like, but holding the space for them to meet, and that's the intimate, because you, as you know, your dragon connection is really intimate. Trying to explain it to somebody else is this. Hopefully to bring it online. I would love to look at more venues in New Zealand. You know, opportunity arises. I'd also like to, I'm thinking that, because I have family, of doing maybe a couple in Brisbane next year, and maybe other parts of Australia. You know, and then I've got a couple of people that I've met and clients that are now friends have said to me, "We'll bring it to America," but that seems really big and out there, and that scares the living bejesus out of me. But you know, there are opportunities.
It'll all be in the right time, Jan, and you know.
So for me right now, yes, and you know, one of my other big passions is to be able to offer people the light coded or source code. You know, I call it source code. You know, light readings, which is done on watercolor. So it's done on good quality paper that you can frame, and it's yours to keep. And also too, just to be able to, I would love to be able to do some deep energy healing work, because it doesn't matter who you're calling in, you know, you call in your tribe, because I mean, I still have guardians and other beings that I work with. I just work more primarily with dragon because that's who I resonate, you know,
Yes.
and but I am aware of, and when I do some of the bigger work, like the whole workforce, I call it the workforce is called in,
Yeah.
you know, because it's we created this mess as humans with some interference sometimes by other beings, I will say, and it's time now to uncreate it. But in the uncreating, it's about, you know, not allowing space for it to be recreated again. So we need to, you know, create anew at the same time as uncreating.
Yeah.
That's why these new ley lines and grids are so important, because it's like if we're clearing out ley lines and they're damaged beyond repair, and we need to put the new one in straight away.
Yeah.
Or we need to strengthen the old one. We can't just clear it out and then leave it, because the rot will creep back in again. You know, so yeah, so very excited. I am here. I'm in the process of changing it, but at the moment I am Healing Pathways with Jan Rosa on Facebook. Yeah, so yeah, and honest, not that I do much, but that's all changing. But I am just going to be Jan Rosa Multi-Faceted Intuitive moving forward with my website and things, because that's who I am. So
beautiful.
Yeah, so no more labels about, you know, I know what I can do, but you know, somebody comes to me, it's a bit like you never know quite what you're going to bring forward for them until they're in the room with you or on the screen with you, and you use every tool you've got available.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say I'm just a healer or a reader or a clairvoyant or a medium. I'm dragon and I'm multifaceted.
Yeah.
You know.
And the labels are all sort of starting to shift a bit now, eh? You know, what our old, you know, clairvoyant medium, all that sort of thing is still relevant to people, because you sort of need to go back to the old for them to understand exactly what you're saying, you know, for them to get what we do. But it's not the labels now that fit.
No, so for me, multifaceted intuitive means that I use whatever I'm called to use, you know, and it's not me actually calling it in. It's your higher self or source or soul or whoever that I'm connecting in with that says, or your dragon, you know, that says, boy, they need this, you know, and you're like, so, you know, so just working with what your soul and heart is calling in for you today, not with what I think you need. So it's taking me out of the equation. So yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Oh, that's wonderful, Jan. Well, I'm sure everyone can find you when they need to, as they all do with us, you know, when it's required. So all the very, very best with it all. Can't wait for you to get up here and have some fun. And yeah, much, much love to you and your family for sure.
And thank you.
So welcome. Thank you.